TOEFL listening strategies.
Hello guys, how are you? I hope you're doing good. So my name is Iqbal Salman Abdurrohman and here we will talk about listening skills. So what is listening skills? Listening skill is the skill that can help you during the listening test. So sometimes you have the problem in listening, such as you lack of vocabulary or you run out of time. So here we will overview the solutions with strategies and skills that can help you to doing the listening test well. So me, Iqbal Salman Abdurrohman, and my friend Mei Vinta Nur Intan Sari will present the solution for you.
Okay, here we go. General strategies for listening comprehension. First, be familiar with direction. Second, be familiar with the passing of the task. 3. Never leave any answers blank on your answer sheet. Short dialogue. Short dialogue are found in Part A in the listening comprehension. There are 30 short dialogues, a 2-line dialogue for each question. Procedures of short dialogues. First, focus on the second line of the conversation. Second, the correct answer is probably a reassessment of a keyword or idea in the second lines of dialogues. 3. Keep in mind that these questions generally progress from easy to difficult. 4. Read the answer and choose the best answer to each question. 5. Even if you don't understand the complete dialogue, you can still find the correct answer. 6. Be prepared for the next question. Listening skills. The ability to actively understand information by the speaker and display interest in the topic discussed.
Okay, so first we want to talk about the skill 1. So the skill 1 is focus on the last line. So the last line of the dialogue is probably contains the answer to the questions. So we must listen to the first line of the dialogues first, okay? If you don't understand the first line, it's okay, but if you understand it, that's good. So don't worry if you not understand the first line because it probably does not contain the answer. So you must be ready to focus on the last line of the dialogue because it probably contains the answer. So for example, in the recording you will be heard, Billy really made a big mistake this time. Yes, he forgot to turn his receipt paper. What does the woman say about Billy? So the possible answer is A. It was the first time he made a mistake. B. He forgot to write his paper. C. He turned in the paper in the wrong place. And D. He didn't remember to submit his assignment. So in these conversations, the second lines indicate that Billy forgot to turn in his paper. And this means that he did not remember to submit the assignment. So therefore, the best answer is B. So we must focus on the last line or second line. So next, so the second skill is choose answer with synonyms. So often the correct answer is an answer that contains synonyms. So we must focus on keyword in the lines. If you see any synonym in an answer, then you have probably found the correct answer. So this is the example. So woman, why is Barbara feeling so happy? Man, she just started working in the real estate agency. Woman, what does the woman say about Barbara? So the possible answer is A. She always liked her work in travel agency. B. She began a new job. C. She just bought some real estate. And D. She bought a real estate agency. So in these conversations, the correct answer is the letter B. She began a new job. Why? Because the word begin has the same meaning as started, and the job has the same meaning as working. The words are different but with the same meaning. So This is why we must understand the skill of using the synonyms, because sometimes the answer is not the same word in the recording of the listening. Okay, so the third skill is about to avoid similar sounds. So if you find an answer with the same word as the dialogue, or if the sound is similar, so this answer is probably wrong. There are words that contain similar sound but with different meanings, and we can easily get confused with the sound of this word. Therefore, we need to look for an answer with the same meaning, not the same sounds. So the question here is, man, why couldn't Mark come with us? He was searching for a new apartment. What does the woman say about Mark? So the possible answer is A. He was in the department office. B. He was looking for a place to live. C. He was working on his research projects. And D. He had an appointment at church. In this example, the correct answer is the letter B. He was looking for a place to live, because it has the same meaning as the sound line of the conversations, and the other answer have words that sound similar. For example, department and apartment, research and search, appointment and apartment, and church and search. It is necessary to know that we heard a word that is the answer sounds similar. It means that we need different sound as the example above. Okay, so we are move on to the next skill. So the skill number 4 is drawing conclusion who, what, and where. So in many conversation, we will have to make an inference from what the speaker say, or to draw some kind of conclusions. In this type of question, the answer is not clearly stated. Instead, we must draw a conclusion based on clues given in the conversations. So we make your question like this. So, who is the man or woman? What will probably happen next? Where does this conversation probably takes place? So, we must use clues in the conversation to help you to make an intelligent quest about the answers. So we go directly to the example. So, woman, can you tell me what assignment I missed when I was absent from your class? You missed one homework assignment and a quiz. Who is the man? So we must focus on the question who. So who. So in your textbook you read A. A newspaper editor, B. A police officer, C. A teacher, and D. A student. As you can see, we have some clues. Homework and quiz. It means that the man is probably a teacher. Therefore, the correct answer is C. A teacher. Okay, so next, listen for who and what in a passive. So this is the skill 5. So sometimes the conversations contain an active statement, but the correct answer has a passive statement with the same meanings. So the meaning is the same, but the form is different. So it can be from active to passive or passive to active, but usually it's active, and the correct answer is passive. So we go directly to the example. Man, did Sally go to the bank this morning? Yes, she did. She opened a new checking account. Question. What does the woman imply? So in your textbook you will read A. Sally wrote several checks. B. Sally wanted to check up on the banks. C. A new bank account was opened. And D. Sally checked on the balance in his account. In her account, So we are going to choose answer C. Why? Because it has the same meaning as she opened a new checking account, but it is in the passive form. So a new bank account was opened. So we just switch the subjects and the objects. So this is the passive statement. So we must be very careful in passive sentence. The subject received the actions, it doesn't do it. Okay, so you must pay attention on this. And for the skill 6 is listen for who and what with multiple nouns. So some conversation names more than one noun or more than one person, and it's easy to get confused, so you must be sure to listen carefully. So in the example over here, man, do you know who is in the band now? So the woman, yes, I heard that Mana replaced Robert. The question, what does woman say about the band? So we have the possible answer. A. Robert became a new member of the band. B. Robert took Mara's place in the band. C. Mara didn't have a place in the band. And D. Mara took Robert's place in the band. So the correct answer is D. Mara replaced Robert. Means that Robert is out and Mara is in.
Skill 7. Negative expression. The most common kind of the correct response to the negative statement is a positive statement containing a word with opposite meaning. So, for example, there's a conversation between man and woman. And the question is, what does the woman say about the trip? And then the answer on your textbook, you read, there are 4 multiple choice, A until D. She drove rather quickly, she couldn't have driven more slowly, she wanted to drive slowly to Maine. D. She didn't drive to Maine. As we can see in the conversation, the woman didn't drive slowly. The correct answer is A. Has the word quickly, which is the opposite of the slowly. Therefore, it has the same meaning as the not slowly. Skill 8. Listen for double negative expression. Some sentences have 2 negative expressions that together make a positive idea. Yeah, here is the example. So, you will hear the conversation between man and woman. And the question is, what does the woman say about the concert? In your textbook, you read there are 5 multiple choice, A until D. There is no possibility that the concert will happen. The concert will definitely not happen. The concert might happen. D. The concert can't happen. The woman says it's not impossible. So she means it is possible. The correct might happen has the same meaning as the correct is possible. Therefore, this is the correct answer, C. Skill 9. Listen for almost negative expression. There are several almost negative expressions in English. Words like rarely or seldom. These words have meanings of almost not, almost none, or almost never. Here is an example of a conversation with an almost negative expression. So, there are conversation between woman and man. Were you able to pay the electric bill? I had barely enough money. What does the man imply? In your textbook, you read, there are 4 multiple choice. He had plenty of money for the bill, A. And then the B, he did not have enough money for the bill. C, He paid the bill but has no money left. D. He has unable to pay the bill. The man's answer say he had barely enough money, so we know that he could pay the bill, but he had no money or only a teeny bit of money left after that. Therefore, C is the best answer. Skill 10. Listen for negatives with comparatives. Negatives can be used with comparatives in short dialogues. A sentence with a negative and a comparative has a superlative or very strong meaning. The example: there a conversation between woman and man. Woman: what do you think of the new student in math class? Man: no one is more intelligent than she is. Narrator: what does the man say about the new student? Possibly answer: A. She is not very smart. B. He is smarter than she is. C. Other students are smarter than she is. D. She is the smartest student in the class. As we can see, the man responds with this negative no and C comparative more intelligent. And this combination has a superlative meaning. This matters. Answer G is the correct answer. Skill 11. Listen for expressions of agreement. We should become familiar with the expression of agreement because there are short dialogues that usually contain those kind of expression. These are expressions that show agreement with a positive statement. One that does not have not or in it. So do I, so did I, so can I, etc. I do too, I did too, I can too, etc. Me too. This sounds more informal. When we agree with a negative statement, one that uses not or anti, we can say neither do I, neither did I, neither can I, etc. And then I don't either, I didn't either, I cannot either, etc. Me either. Sounds very informal. So look at this conversation. The question is, what does the woman mean? And there are 4 possibly answers. What do you think the answer is? So as you see in the conversation, there is an expression that shows agreement. So do I. So the woman means that she agrees with the man. Therefore, the correct answer is D. Skill 12. Listen for
Skill
expressions
18.
of uncertainty
Anticipate the topics
and suggestion.
It is
Sometimes
especially
the
useful
second
for your
speaker
general
show
appreciation
uncertainty
if you
about
understand
what the first speaker
topics are
said.
anticipated in the
Here
long
are some
discussion.
expressions
You
that
should
might
just try
be
to
used.
wait for the topics
I'm
we'll
not
hear.
so sure about that.
For example,
As far as I
are
know,
the conversation about
as far
some
as I
aspect of
can
school
tell,
life
this
or some
implies
type of
that
social
am I
issue
not knowing everything,
or a
so
trip
maybe
someone is
I'm
planning.
wrong.
A helpful
And then,
strategy
isn't it?
is therefore to
Didn't
look
it?
briefly
One day,
at the answer
one
in the
day.
textbook before you actually hear the
Expressions of
conversation on the
uncertainty
recording
and suggestions
try to
are
determine
very
the
common
topics
in the short
of the conversation.
Look at the
that we'll
following example.
hear.
Man, do
Take
you
a
know
gender at the
anything
response
about
to
the
the
final
5 questions
exam
together and try to
Woman,
anticipate the
it's
topic
going
of
to
the
be rather
conversation
difficult,
for those
isn't it?
5 questions.
What
Of
does
course,
the woman
you cannot
mean?
always determine
Possible
exactly
answers.
what the
A,
topic is,
the exam
but
is
you
not
often
going
can
to
get
be
a general idea.
difficult.
Question 1
B,
through
she
5
is
have been
positive
answered
that it's
for
going
you.
to be hard. C, she thinks that it
So here are
might
some
be hard.
example questions.
D, she
You
has
can
no
look from
idea
number
about
1
the exam.
and number 5. When
So the correct
speaker
answer to this
start the
question is the
conversation,
letter C.
you can
because
briefly
the word
see
thing and
What is
might
the answer
express
on
uncertainty.
the number 1 until
Skill
number 5?
13.
Like
Listen
A,
for empathy
find work on
expressions
campus,
of
etc.
surprise. We must know that
What is the
sometimes
topic
a
of the
speaker expresses
conversation for question
surprise
1
by
to 5?
emphasizing
So
certain
you can
words.
try to
In this
answer
case, we know that the speaker did not
So the answer
expect
is
something
looking
to
for
be
a job
true.
on campus.
He or
You
she
can guess this
had
because of
assumed
the following clues.
that the opposite
There
was true.
a word or statement.
For example,
in those
on the
conversations
recording
first,
you hear,
work on campus,
did you see Paul
employment
driving
office,
around in his
students,
Mustang?
and then jobs.
Then did he get
Skill
a new car?
19.
What
Anticipate the
had
questions.
the main
It is
clue?
very helpful for your
A,
capacity
Paul would
to answer
definitely
singular
get a Mustang.
inquiries with long
B,
discussion
Paul
in
did
the
not
event
know how to
that
drive.
you can suspect
C,
what the
Paul did not
inquiries
like Mustangs.
will be.
D,
And listen
Paul would
particularly
not
to the
get a new
response
car.
to those inquiries.
We know that the answer D is correct. The man was surprised that Paul had been driving a new Prius, so he must have assumed that he didn't have one.
Okay, so we go to the skill 14. Listen for visas. The important idea to remember about visas is that always implies that the opposite of the wish is true. So, implies that the opposite of the wish is true. So, speakers sometimes say, I wish blah blah blah. This implies that the wish is impossible. If I say, I wish I could swim, it implies that I cannot swim. So wish is different from hopes. Wishes are not true, but hopes might still come true. Okay, so we go directly to the example. So woman, it's so bad that you have to stay here and work during the school break. Man, I really wish I could go with you and the other to Palm Spring. Narrator, what does the man mean? So in the ABCD, A. Maybe he will go with the others on the trips. B. He is unable to go on the trip. C. He is happy to be going on the trip. D. He is going on the trip but not with the others. Answer B is correct. He is unable to go on the trip. If the man wishes he could go, it implies that he cannot go. So the answer B, he is unable to go on the trip. So skill number 15 is about listen for untrue conditions. Conditional sentences are something like wishes. It's unreal. Conditional sentences. The implication is that the opposite of the conditions is true. Okay, the opposite of the condition is true. So the example, man, do you think that you would be able to go to the party? Woman, if I had time, I would go. Narrator, what does the woman say about the party? So A, maybe she will go. B, she has time so she'll go. C, she is going even if she doesn't have time. D, it is impossible to go. In these questions, the condition if I had time implies that the opposite is true. So what is the opposite of if I had time? The opposite, the woman does not have time for the party, so it's impossible to go. Therefore, the best answer to this question is D. It's impossible to go. Okay, next to the skill number 16. Listen for 2 and 3 part verbs. Many questions in the part A contain phrasal verb. What is phrasal verb? Are you ever heard about phrasal verb? So phrasal verb is a combination of words that create different meaning. So for example, call off. Call off mean cancel. How can call off mean cancel? It's a nonsense, right? But this is the phrasal verb. If you go directly to translate call is like you were calling someone, and off like you're turn off something. But if call and off combined,
that create a new meaning, cancel. Okay, so that was the phrasal verb. That is the phrasal verb. Okay, so next example. Man, what time does the meeting start? Woman, didn't you hear that it was called off by the director? What does the woman say about the meeting? A. The director called a meeting. B. The director phoned her about the meeting. C. The director called the meeting to order. D. The director cancelled the meeting. So I think the correct answer is D, because call off means cancel. Remember phrasal verb, okay? The wrong answer try to fool us with other meaning of call. Okay. So now skill number 17. Listen for idiom. There are questions that contain idiom whose meaning is hard to predict, like a piece of cake, which means it's easy. How can a piece of cake mean easy? That should be unreasonable. But this is idioms. Idioms is has meaning by itself. So we can predict it just by knowing the meaning of a piece and cake, right? So this is idiom. So you must read a lot of idiom and search a lot of idioms so you can answer the question in the listening test about idioms. So the example, man, I have to take an advanced biology next semester. Woman, don't worry about it. Eat a piece of cake. Question, what does woman mean? In your textbook, you read A. The man should eat a piece of cake. B. The man should worry about the course. C. The man shouldn't take part in the course. Or D. The course is easy. As long as we know that a piece of cake means it's easy, right? So we know that the correct answer is D. Even if we didn't know this idiom, we could guess that A is incorrect because it has nothing to do with a biology class. It's obviously a trick answer.
Skill 19. Anticipate the topics. It is exceptionally useful for your general appreciation if you understand what topics to anticipate in the long discussions. You should thus try to wait for the topics you will hear. For example, are the conversation about some aspect of school life or the some type of social issue or a trip someone is planning? A helpful strategy is therefore to look briefly at the answers in the textbook before you actually hear the conversation on the recording and try to determine the topics of the conversation that you will hear. Take a gander at the response to the 5 questions together and try to anticipate the topic of the conversation of those 5 questions. Of course, you cannot always determine exactly what the topic is, but you often can get a general idea. Questions 1 through 5 have been answered for you. So there are 5 multiple choice, number 1 until number 5. And what is the topic of the conversation for question 1 through 5? Yeah, so you can determine and you can choose or think what is the possibly questions about this multiple choice. Like find work on campus, work in the employment office, library, and then 20, morning, weekdays in class, etc. And the answer is looking for a job on campus. You can guess this because of the following clues: work on campus, employment office, students, and job. Skill 19. Anticipate the questions. It is very helpful for your capacity to answer singular inquiries with long discussion in the event that you can suspect what the inquiries will be and listening particularly to the response to those inquiries. So look at this example. A. In the airport. B. In the library. C. In the dormitory. D. In the travel agent's office. You try to anticipate the question. Where does the conversation probably take place? In this example, you can be sure that one of the questions will be about where the conversation takes place, as you are sure that this is one of the questions. You can listen carefully to the clues that will give you the answer. This example shows that a useful strategy, therefore, is to look briefly at the answer in the textbook before listening to the conversation in the recording and try to determine the questions that you will be asked to answer. Skill 20. Determine the topic. This skill talks about when you think about the main idea of the long conversation, or it can be about the topic, in this case, the subject. From the first or the two sentences in general, give a subject. You should ask yourself what is the temp while they are listening carefully to the first part of the conversation. Once you identify the topic, you can more easily determine the question's topic. The topic is another word for subject. It answers the questions who or what is the paragraph or article about. The topic is stated as a single word or phrase, not a complete sentence. So you can look the conversation between man and woman. Listen to the question between two students. Man: you can't believe that I just got. Woman: I bet you got a new car you have always wanted. Man: now, how in the world did you figure it out? You think the topic of the conversation is the new car that the man just got.
Okay, so after we studied about the skills to answer the listening test, so we have the last materials is about making inference. So what is making inference? Of course, so making inference is making a conclusions with evidence and logics. So there are steps to this inference. So step 1, identify. Identify what? Identify inference questions. You will need to determine whether or not you're actually being asked to make an inference on a reading test. The most obvious question will have the words suggest, imply, or infer. So, for example, in the question you will hear, according to the passage, we can reasonably infer. So there is infer, right? So this is inferring. So based on the passage, it could be suggested that there is suggest. So this is like inference too, okay? So which of the following statement is best supported by the passage? So this is the example to identify an inference questions. So step 2, we must trust the passage. Know that you have an inference question on your hand, right? And you know exactly what an inference is. You will need to let go of your prejudice and prior knowledge and use the passage to prove that the inference you select is the correct one. Remember, trust the passage. If you have minds or you have think about other thing outside the passage, you should not do that. You just trust the passage. You just trust the context, okay? So step number 3, hunt for clues. Your third step is to start hunting for clues. Where we can find the clues? Of course, we find it in the listening, but it can be from supporting details, vocabulary, character action, description, dialogues, and more. To prove one of the inferences lists in the choice of the answer, you must hunt from the clues, okay? So step number 4. After you know that the question is about inference and you trust the passage and you hunt from the clues, now the step number 4 is narrow down the choices. The last step to making a correct inference on a multiple choice test is to narrow down the answer choices. From the clues, you trust the passage. So, hopefully.
Okay guys, that's all the video about ITP TOEFL listening strategies. Thank you for watching our video.